He has made culinary magic in some glamorous places, top restaurants in Chicago and here in Beverly Hills. But it is not prestige that motivates Aaron Lindgren. It is doing something well and giving it to others.
You make something from start to finish. You create something. And then you give it to somebody or you give it to people, whatever, and they feel true joy, like happiness.
Aaron was born in Chicago. His mother was not sure who his father was. When he was a year old, he and his mom moved to Northern California. There, Leanne Lindgren did drugs and drank heavily.
When she was drinking heavier, she'd go from being somebody who, never really believed in, like using, physical punishment or anything like that, to being somebody who, kind of lash out.
Leanne dragged the 10-year-old boy to bars, keeping him there so late the bartenders would have to kick them out.
I'd be the kid over in the corner, coloring in my coloring book until like 11 o'clock at night until, like whoever, the bartender would say, well, it's a little past curfew, and, my mom would try and pull herself together enough to drive us home.
It was clear Leanne could not care for her son, so she sent him to live with relatives in Chicago. Aaron was 14, but his uncle was a heavy drinker too, and there were violent confrontations.
At one point he kind of like picked up a chair, like all frustrated, and I basically said, if you even think about hitting me with that chair, you better not go to sleep as long as I live in this, in this house. And he said, well, then you're not going to be living in my house anymore, and I'm going to send you to live with your mom.
By now, Aaron's mother had also returned to Chicago, living on welfare in Wicker Park.
A lot different than it is now, that's for sure.
Not the fashionable neighborhood it is today. Gangs and drugs made life miserable, and Leanne was drinking so much
she had a $50, $60 a month habit on vodka.
There was no money to buy Aaron a bus pass for high school. He dropped out. There was hope for Aaron, the Mercy Home for Boys and Girls.
We are really able to afford these young people a fine home, a good education, and the necessary therapeutic support to build lives of hope and future.
We'd like to say the story ended well right here, but time after time, Aaron broke Mercy Home's rules. Then, at 38 years old, Leanne Lindgren took a room at the Lawson YMCA. Her body ravaged by alcohol, she died alone. Aaron took her ashes to California and scattered them in the Pacific Ocean. Aaron was angry and hurt.
I lashed out in probably a lot of different ways. They just were really not constructive at all. And I think a lot of it came from the fact that I felt very alone.
Mercy Home is enormously compassionate. Children there receive intensive therapy and love. But Mercy Home demands personal responsibility. Aaron was belligerent. He returned to the old neighborhood, hung out with gangs, and did drugs. Mercy Home told Aaron he had to leave.
He had all the opportunities there and people were reaching out, but he would do those things that would push everyone away and left us with no choice.
Aaron got in more trouble at a group home and was severely punished. Mercy Home started to look pretty good. He begged for a second chance.
If you could give me another opportunity, I'm sure that I could, try and be a little bit more responsible and, follow the rules.
I always saw something more about Aaron. He always had a spark and he was always a survivor. I knew that if we could break through that shell of his, good things would happen.
Good things did happen. In one day alone, Aaron lined up 3 jobs at Sears Tower. Then he got his high school equivalency diploma and fulfilled a lifelong dream by going to Kendall Culinary College. Aaron was ready for his big break. It came from one of the world's great chefs, Charlie Trotter.
Anybody to succeed in this kitchen has got to be strong from a mental standpoint, from a motivation standpoint, from a physical stamina standpoint, but to overcome many things in life to even get here and continue to thrive. I think that's really what made Aaron stand out in this group.
Today, Aaron Lindgren is thriving, a talented professional, a husband, a father, one of so many men and women who found the love and direction they needed at the Mercy Home for Boys and Girls, a port in the storm that exists simply because of our generous donors.
I was recently in a conversation with our mayor here in Chicago, Mayor Daley, and he had a very powerful line. He said, Father, Mercy Home for Boys and Girls does what government can never do. Mercy Home for Boys and Girls saves and brings healing to the soul of a child in crisis. That's what our donors do.